Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to another edition of the Virtual Alumni Talks with Aiesec Alumni International in collaboration with CQ Savvy, where we help you develop the leadership skills for today's borderless world. I hope you have your favorite pen and some paper, because today we have Anubhav Jain, who is going to help us develop our vision for this year so that we are in a better position to achieve our goals. Anubhav has worked about 10 years in many corporate positions at PayPal and Autodesk, and he left the corporate world about 5 years ago and is now on a mission to help 100 founders develop and launch projects for social change. He's also a co-founder here at CQ Savvy, and he's also an NLP master practitioner. Anubhav, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you can hear me, just type your name in the chat. The chat is at the bottom. Excellent. Sounds like people can hear. I'm hearing people's names. People are from Denmark, Germany. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. I have two screens over here, one where I'm looking at and one to my left. That way I can track the chat and what you're saying. If one does not know which port one is sailing to, no wind is favorable. Welcome to Create Your Leadership Vision. First of all, I want to thank you, Peter, for your commitment to the values of Aiesec, helping people with building their leadership skills and helping build bridges across cultures with not only with CQ Savvy, but everything that you do. And I want to thank you for your commitment in your personal growth and showing up today to create a vision for your life and for your work that you're doing in this world. And finally, I want to thank you for trusting me to be part of this journey and support you in the process. I'm very excited to be part of this journey with you. Just a quick logistics. The workshop is going to be about an hour to 90 minutes. This is going to be very interactive, meaning I will give you prompts and you will be writing things. You'll be creating your vision. And we will also have the opportunity to share. Sharing is not necessary, and so you're welcome to write things and keep them personal if you so prefer. But if you're feeling so called, I would love to invite you to share with the group. I also invite you to switch off your cell phones, any other distractions that you have, so that way you can focus on really creating your vision for your leadership for this coming year. Also, we're going to have a visioning exercise later on towards the end of this workshop, or the second half of this workshop. And I want to make sure that while we're doing that visioning meditation, we don't have any distractions happening. So go ahead and do that. Also, you can use the hashtag Leadership Vision to share this talk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can tag me by my first name. I'm at Anubhav on both Twitter and Instagram. So just, I already see that people are sharing where they're from. One of the things that I love about Aiesec is just how international this group is. I've attended the last two workshops, and just even now I'm looking at this. And we have Alicia from Italy, Zahin from Seoul, Gian Piero from Italy. I am not even sure if I'm pronouncing your names, but that's the beauty of the diversity of culture, is we all say our names with our own accents. And so I know some of you might be thinking that my name is hard to pronounce. Just because you're not familiar with it, I invite you to say it just the way that you feel comfortable saying it. I don't believe there's a perfectly right or wrong way of saying names. Awesome. Wow, we have people from Iran, from Colombia, Denmark, and Germany. Oh, Nicaragua and China. Awesome. I am so happy that you're here. Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Who is Anubhav? So I was born and raised in New Delhi. And these are some slightly older versions of pictures in India. If you can see on the bottom left, in Delhi, we have the ambassador car. And when I was young, we only had 2 models of cars, and this was one of them. One of my favorite memories of New Delhi is you can see the corn on the cob that's being roasted on coal. Just delicious. If you haven't tried it yet, I would highly encourage you to give that a try. And I left Delhi when I was 23, when I had just finished my undergraduate. And I left that for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to be as far away from my parents as possible. And 2, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew that USA is one of those countries that allows you to go to grad school without knowing what you want to do. So it was perfect for me. 17 years later, I am now living in San Francisco. Some of you might be able to see my space over here. It's beautiful. And San Francisco, the Bay Area, is an incredibly amazing place to look at. You can see some of these landmarks, the Golden Gate Bridge, and Lombard Street, which is supposedly in the Guinness Book of Records as being the crookedest street in the world. And one of the things that I learned about myself in this journey of leaving India and moving to the US is that I really care about people. If there was one theme of my life, it's about caring about people. And that has brought me a long ways in creating my success and everything that I'm doing today. And I want to share you just 2 quick stories about this. The first one is from my work environment at PayPal, which was my first job. And I was brought onto a team where we were working on fraud investigations. And I didn't really know much about fraud at that point, or fraud investigations, or really at PayPal. And so I started asking some questions and very quickly found out that the people who were designing the fraud investigations interface were based in San Jose, and the people who were using it were based in Omaha, Nebraska. And if you don't know much about the geography of the USA, which was me at that point, those 2 cities are about 1,500 miles apart. So those 2 people had never met. Me, because I care about people and I'm very curious, I asked my manager to allow me to go and meet these people that we were designing for. He said yes, and I spent a week with these people. And they showed me the work that they were doing. They allowed me to sit with them and watch them do their work. As a result, I gained a really deep understanding of how they do their work, what's working for them and what's not working for them. I brought back all this understanding along with stories and anecdotes about these people who were using the interface. And what that allowed was built a connection between the 2 groups of people that then started people traveling from one place to the other so they could meet each other in person. And second, it allowed me to propose a redesign of the PayPal fraud investigations platform, which resulted in PayPal now saving millions of dollars a year in fraud losses. And all that happened just because I got curious about people. And I was able to lead that transition. So that's a little story about my work life. The second one is about my personal life. And now you can see pictures of my family. That's me on the top left with my mother, my family on the right and the bottom. If you look on the bottom right, over here, that's my mom, my dad, and my sister. And as I said, one of the reasons that I left India was to be as far away as possible. But in my heart, I always wanted to connect with them and improve my relationship with them. And so when I moved to the US, I go back and visit them every day. And read books, trying to tell them on how they can change themselves and how they can be better people. So I would like them more, and it would be easier for me to be with them. I would say to them things like, hey, instead of yelling at each other, maybe you can appreciate each other, say nice things to each other. After all, we're family. And this happened year over year. And believe it or not, they didn't change. And I was getting even more frustrated. So one year, 2015, which is about a little over 3 years ago, I was noticing as I was flying back to India, am I doing what I'm asking them to do? Am I appreciating them? And I realized that I wasn't doing what I was asking them to do. I wasn't saying any nice things to them. And so on my flight back, what I did was I wrote down 10 appreciations about each member of my family. It was not very comfortable, but I invited them over dinner and I said, hey, can we all get together? And I want to share something with you afterwards. Post dinner, everyone sat down and I said, I have something to share with you. And all I want you to do is listen. You can only say, okay, or okay, thank you. I don't need any responses from you, and no one else is going to say anything. And one by one, I read my 10 appreciations for that one person. It was unbelievable to see their response on how touched they were. Not only that, I then invited other members of my family to say one thing that they appreciated about this individual. It melted my heart. Over the course of the next week, I noticed that things started to change. Not a whole lot, but people in my family were just a little bit nicer to each other. Over the course of the next year, things were even better. We went on a family vacation for a week and ended up loving each other more than we even started out, which had never happened before. And a few years into it, 4 years now, my mom calls me and says all these nice things to me all the time. So change that I'm really excited about. So that's a little bit about me that I wanted to share with you. We're gonna then move on to the content of the workshop. And if you have any questions or things that you want to share along the way that you're feeling inspired by what I'm sharing, either my story or the content, feel free to share that in chat. So the title of this workshop is Create Your Leadership Vision. And as we're going ahead with creating the vision, I want to discuss the definitions of these two words so that we have that context for this workshop. First, leadership. Which one are you? Do you consider yourself a leader? Or do you want to grow your leadership skills from where you're at now? Or maybe both. Go ahead and type 1 if you consider yourself a leader, and 2 if you want to grow your leadership skills, and type 1 and 2 if you want to do both. I am seeing a lot of 1s and 2s. Zaheen says 1 and 2, Amir says, Fatima says 1, Olga's 2. So we have quite a combination of people who are leaders, who want to grow their leadership skills. You're in the right place. So I did a little bit of research on who's talking about leadership. It's one of the most popular topics of conversation these days. Definitely Aiesec, which all of you are part of, their vision is to build leadership amongst youth and onwards, even with the alumni. Simon Sinek is one of my favorite people who talks about leadership. Check out his website, startwithwhy.com. And Peter over here with his work at CQ Savvy, there was a work, he did a webinar just a few months ago on becoming a global leader. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in charge. Simon Sinek. This is one of the things that I'd like for you to keep in mind as we're going through creating your leadership vision. And one of those things to be aware of is those in your charge includes you. It's you and other people. And there's a context. It's at work, at home, and in your community that you can have your leadership impact. So I want you to go ahead and take a minute to notice and answer this question. What does leadership mean to you? So go ahead and I'll keep a timer for 1 minute. Take your pen and paper and go ahead and write the answer to what does leadership mean to you, because we're creating a personal leadership vision. Go ahead and get started now. As you're writing your vision, I invite you to go ahead and share in the chat, what does leadership mean to you? What does leadership mean to you? And while you're sharing that, I also invite you to turn on your web cameras because I'd love to see your beautiful faces. I know a lot of you are on this call, and I would love to see what you look like, where you're at as you're doing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to be, you can be sitting there in your pajamas and that's totally fine. And that's the beauty of being able to work across cultures, work across countries, and lead these webinars, that we can be in different time zones, in different situations, all at the same time. So what I'm hearing people say in the chat, leadership is about having impact in someone else's life while transforming myself. Thank you, Cecilia. Leadership is growing by growing others. Thank you, Stefan. Peter says it's about striving towards a life that I love while serving others with my skills and gifts. Jean Perro says leadership is helping people reach their goals. Awesome. Albin is saying it's about leading by example. Zahin says being able to move people towards a common goal. Excellent. Tron says it encourages me to improve myself and courage to better support those in charge, which includes me, my family, and my team. I love reading these because it incorporates growth not only for other people, but also for yourself. A lot of times I see that people think of leadership as helping others, supporting others, and giving to others at the cost of depleting one's energy or depleting oneself. And I love seeing that it's not just about helping other people, but it's also developing yourself. Because when you develop yourself, you inspire people to develop themselves. Herman says it's about setting examples for others to follow, which includes, that means that you're doing a great job. You're doing a lot of self-development. Amir says it's about developing together. Maria says empowering and creating synergy. Fatima says leading my mind. by self-awareness and influencing others by my existence. Awesome. And I'd love for you to continue to share, even if I'm not reading it out on this call just at the moment. And as you're wrapping that up, go ahead and take a moment to write down what would you like to get from this workshop? What is your intention so that you feel that you got a lot of value and you made progress in your life by participating in this workshop? Go ahead and write that now. And as you write the intentions, again, go ahead and share that in the chat. What I'm hearing people say, thank you for sharing, it's about clarity, what you're looking for in this workshop, new ideas and a different perspective on leadership, clarity, understanding, deeper understanding, more perspective, boost my effectiveness. Thank you. So that was a little bit about leadership, vision. Now, we're going to use the analogy of Google Maps with regards to vision. When you want to go somewhere, and I picked one of my favorite cities in the US, Portland, you need two things. Google Maps asks you for two things: where you're at, which is at the moment, I'm in the San Francisco area, and where do I want to go? And then it can show you the path on how to get there. And not only is there one path to go from where you're at to where you want to be, but there's multiple paths. And there's no right or wrong path. There's also a beautiful path all along the coast over here, which might take a little bit longer, but it's beautiful and scenic. Google Maps is suggesting the shortest path. You might take the path on the right, and it might take you through beautiful mountains and where you can go and stop for hiking. So there's a lot of options to go. So in this workshop, what we're going to do is to define two things: where you're at now and where you want to be. Because to achieve your vision, you need these two things. And we're going to shine the light on both of those for you. One thing I want you to know is I might be sharing a lot of different things. We're going to talk about a few different concepts today. Is you don't have to worry about reading, listening, remembering everything. Your subconscious is tracking all of those. If you take even one thing away from today that you'll learn, that will be all you need. That is all you need. Okay. So, quick overview of the agenda today. We just talked about leadership and vision. As we said, creating a vision is about where you're at now. So we're going to start with that. We're going to create your vision. We're going to then do a visioning exercise, talk about what's next from there, and any other questions, answers at the end of that. But feel free to ask questions as we go along, as they come up. I want to acknowledge my teachers, people that I've been learning from, amongst many others. Dr. Carl Buchheit, where I've been studying at NLP Marin for almost 3 years. At this point, excellent human being. Go check out some of his stuff at that website. And then Michelle Masters, who leads a workshop and has written a book called Money Magic. And that's her website to the right. So go check him out. I'm very grateful to everything that I'm doing to these two wonderful human beings, amongst other people. And a lot of the work that I have today is stuff that I've learned from them. With that said, let's go ahead and start working on your vision. And starting from where you are now. We're going to look at where you're at now with aspects to four areas in your life: personal, work, physical environment, and relationships. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to take a piece of paper and then make a circle, make a fresh sheet of paper, and right in the middle, you want to make the circle and cross and create the four areas. Excellent. Somebody's asking what Michelle's last name is. It's Michelle Masters. So you're going to take a fresh sheet of paper and right in the middle, you're going to create a big circle and write these four things. And the first question I have for you, we're going to rate our satisfaction. How satisfied are you in each area of your life right now? Enter a number on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you're extremely unsatisfied and 10 you're extremely satisfied. Where are you at? Go ahead and write a number now. There's no right or wrong answer, and this is personal to you on how you are feeling with regards to your satisfaction. And I want you to write a number for each area, because you might be different on how you feel about your personal life versus your work life, relationships, and your environment. Okay, next, what I would like you to do is list 2 to 3 things that are working in each area of your life. So often we focus on things that aren't working in our life that we tend to ignore what is working. And so I want us to take a moment to appreciate the aspects that are working. So go ahead in each side, write down 2 to 3 things that are working in your life. Awesome. I see some of these cameras that have people have switched on. It's lovely to see people. I can see Rita, Stefan, Fatima. Hello, hello. I'd love to see more faces. I know you're feeling shy and you might be sitting there in your pajamas, but it's always good to see everyone. So don't be afraid to switch on your cameras. And as you're writing these things that are working in your life, what I'd like you to notice, what are you discovering? What did you discover about yourself and your life? Go ahead and share that in the chat now. Okay, I'm hearing people say they're noticing they don't have a personal life. Few things are not working well. It's about perspective, that they're blessed in many ways. So the question, Fatima, is as you write down 2 to 3 things that are working in your life, what are you noticing? What are you discovering about yourself? And people are saying they're having a hard time differentiating between things for personal and relationship. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for noticing that, and that is very nicely done. Okay, so now that we have that, I'd like you to go ahead and write down on the same sheet of paper, or you can take a fresh sheet and make another circle. And what are 1 to 2 things that you'd like more of in each area? What are 1 to 2 things that you'd like more of in each area? And as you're writing 1 to 2 things that you like more of, what are you noticing as you make this list? What are you noticing as you make this list of 1 to 2 things that you'd like more of? I'd love for you to share that in the chat. And I also invite you to share some of this with your voice. So if you'd like to share, go ahead and raise your hand so I can invite you and unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and go ahead and I'd love for you to share what are you noticing about where you're at now, what's working and what's more important like. There's a button on the chat that says raise hand. And if you can see that, click on it and I will invite you to share. Or just go ahead and unmute yourself to share. Peter says that many of these are not that hard, but sometimes I'm so busy in my life that I forget. I'd love to hear what you're noticing as you write down 1 to 2 things that are not working in your life or that you'd like more of. Okay. Maria says, I feel that I have high expectations and there are many small things that are good. Excellent noticing, Maria. We have so many blessings in our life We don't always take the time to notice, so thank you for doing that today. Fatima says she's lived in the same place for 32 years and is feeling very satisfied. Rita says what's working all has to do with peace of mind, deeper relationships, and personal growth. Thank you for sharing. So, given that we just wrote down what's working in your life and what you would like more of, go ahead and see if you want to update the numbers that you wrote about your life. In making a note of what you wrote, has that changed the numbers on how you're feeling about your life now? Go ahead and update those numbers. Okay, and if those numbers changed for you, go ahead and share in chat and say yes. Excellent. So now this gives us a perspective on where we're at in our life right now. Amir says no changes. Excellent. That means you're very aware of where you're at. Cecilia says no changes. Fatima says yes, there were some changes. Peter says a few things changed. Herman says no changes. Awesome. That's good to know that you're very self-aware of where you're at in your life right now. And I'm also hearing that there are some changes, which means that, you know, putting attention on identifying where you're at in your life can help you better understand on where you're at. So thank you for sharing. Next, we're gonna go ahead and start working on our vision, given that we have a better understanding of where we're at. It is through our wants and desires that we reach out to life. Michelle Masters. So, given where you're at in your life right now, what I'd like you to do is to create another circle. Take another fresh sheet of paper and make that circle again, so we can use that as your vision circle. And there's 4 aspects: personal, work, environment, and relationships. So go ahead and write down how satisfied would you like to be in each area of your life. Given whatever number you're at, maybe you're at a 4, maybe you're at a 7, maybe you're at an 8, maybe you're even at a 10 in your life in one area. And you might be noticing that there's an imbalance. Maybe your work, you're rocking it at work and it's a 10, but that's affecting your relationships. So maybe there's a way you can bring down work to an 8 or a 9 that can help you improve your relationships, or it can help you improve your personal environment. Go ahead and write down what numbers you would like to be at. And when you do that, go ahead and share in the chat as to what you're noticing as you write down these new numbers. Okay. Next, we're gonna write down what are 2 to 3 things that you would like to be experiencing that will allow you to have this level of satisfaction. What are 2 to 3 things that you don't have in your life right now that you would like to be experiencing that will allow you to go from whatever number you're at now to the number that you would like to be at? So let's go ahead and take a minute, take 2 minutes to write that down. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, John Pero. He wants a more balanced life, 9, 8, 10, and 8. I'd love to hear where you're at now, John Pero, given that that's the numbers that you want to be at. Go ahead and share in the chat numbers for where you're at now and where you would like to be. I would love to see the transformation that you're looking to make. Okay, Peter was at 7, 6, 6, and 7, and he wants an 8, 9, 9, and 8. Thank you for sharing. Olga, so the question is, it can be, how is it different from the previous question? What would you like more of? It's somewhat similar to that question. However, here is an opportunity to write down more specifically, what would you like? The answer to the question, what would you like in each area of your life? What would you like to be experiencing that will help you go from the numbers that you were at to the numbers that you would like to be at? So Peter says he was at a 7, 6, 6, and 7, and he wants to be at 8, 9, 9, and 8. What are 2 or 3 things that will allow you to make that transformation, to have the experience of an 8 or 9 or 10 in your life now? And if you haven't already, thinking about leadership, if there are any other aspects of leadership, given your personal definition of leadership, what would you like to be experiencing in each of these areas? How can you evolve your personal leadership at work, in relationships, and in your physical environment? Let's go ahead and add that to this list. What would you like to be experiencing in each area? And just go ahead and take a moment to reflect on what you wrote down. And take a deep breath as you're writing this. It is through our wants and desires that we reach out to life. And when we reach out to life, life expands. Consciousness expands. We enjoy a better quality of life because generations before us wanted something better. desire is attractive. And it pulls what we want towards us in magical ways. So we're gonna take one of the areas that you wrote about and elaborate a little bit on that to create a more clear vision in your life. So you can choose one area to work with for this next part of creating a next level clarity in your vision, or you can use an amalgamation. And what I would like for you to answer is one of my favorite questions. What would you like? In the area that you have picked, what would you like? All right, I'm just catching up on the chat messages over here. Esteban says he's at a 10, 8, 9, and 8, and he wants to be a 10 in all areas. Excellent. Amir says he's at a 1, 4, 4, and 2, and wants to be a 10, 8, 8, and 4. Esteban says he wants to increase life and work balance. Amir wants to have his own business. Peter wants to put focus on the important things first, like developing routines for health and wellness. Fatima wants to improve relationships. Maria wants to focus on relationships. And Gianpero wants to improve his English and travel more. So go ahead and pick any one of those areas that you wrote about and answer this question. What would you like? Excellent. Fatima says healthy, real love and spirituality. Cecilia says to regain your confidence. Herman says focusing on money and travel with family. Peter says satisfying purpose and rewarding life. Stefan says relationships, focusing on other people. This next question, given that that's what you would like, what will having that do for you? So let's take a moment to ponder and write. Given that you have that, when you have what you want, what will having that do for you? What will it do to have better relationships? What will it do to have more money? What will it do to have more confidence? When you have what you want, what will having that do for you? And when you're done writing that, go ahead and share that in the chat with everyone. And take a deep breath. When, where, and with whom do you want this? When, where, and with whom do you want this? Let's get more specific. When, where, and with whom do you want this experience? Peter says he wants it now or ASAP, wherever I am, with friends and loved ones, and great human beings he hasn't met yet. Fatima says in the next 2 months with a great and responsible man in Iran and traveling around the world. Amir says, when I don't know, where, not in my hometown, and with whom, his brother. Well, Amir, I would suggest, well, if you don't know, if you were to take a guess of when you want to have this experience, when would it be okay for you to have this experience? In a month? In 3 months? In a year? Make a guess. When will it be okay for you? That if you have that, you'd be okay with it. Write down a time frame. And where, again, if it's not in your hometown, is it in San Francisco? Is it in New Delhi? Is it in Singapore? There could be a lot of different options, but let's go ahead and pick one or two where you would be okay having this experience. The more specific that you get with your vision and your goals, the easier and faster they manifest. Zahin says next year with a boss that is competent and compassionate, and in Singapore, Seoul, or Toronto. Rahman says in 2 years in Cameroon. Esteban says soon where he lives and with his wife. Esteban, I would suggest picking a time frame. What is soon? Is soon 1 month, a week, a day? Excellent. So given what we just wrote, I would like you to answer this question again. What would you like? If you were to summarize what you would want in your life in 1 or 2 sentences, what would you like? Peter says as specific as possible. That is correct. So in 1 or 2 sentences, what would you like? So if you have a sentence or 2 on what would you like to experience in your life, go ahead and share that in chat now. And include when, where, and with whom. So Fatima wants to be an international teacher specializing in Persian. Fatima, go ahead and add when and where you'd want this. So you have some clarity on that vision statement. John Pero wants to be your coach. John Pero, go ahead and write some details on when, where. Excellent. And if your vision in this area of life had one word, what would that one word be? Go ahead and pick one word that describes your vision for what you want in this aspect of your life, or that represents those 4 areas of your life. What's one word that describes your vision, that encompasses your vision for all aspects of your life? And go ahead and share that word in the chat. Fatima says peace. Peter says personal fulfillment. Stefan says engagement. Sandra says peace. Olga says fulfillment. Cecilia says passion. Herman says inspiration. Maria says beauty and wonder. Awesome, thank you. So now that we have clarity of vision in one aspect of life, you can use this framework and answer these questions to create the vision for the other aspects of your life, the other 3 areas that we didn't work on in the last few minutes in this workshop. But what we'll do is we're going to focus on this and use that for our visioning exercise. The incredible thing about creating a vision and working on it is that when you focus on one area of your life, all areas of your life improve and move along with that aspect. So if you're feeling like, oh, we only worked on one aspect, am I leaving behind the other areas of life? No, that's not true. When you focus and improve one aspect of your life, everything else moves along with it. I want to chat a little, before we get into the vision exercise, I want to tell you a little bit about what's next. What are your options to go from here? We're going to do the visioning exercise, which should be about 15 minutes or so. At the end of the workshop, we will send you an email with a PDF workbook. So just all the things that you wrote down today, we'll send you a PDF workbook. If you like, you can go ahead and print it out and then clean up and write down more formally to create your vision in a nice format. Also, I have a full day, full length version of this workshop that goes into a lot more detail and depth into creating your vision and looking at 8 areas of your life where you would want to be creating this vision at, and also looking at what might be holding you back in where you're at, and working on your beliefs and transforming them. So in the follow-up email, I will send you that detail as well. If you're interested in signing up for that, I would invite you to join that workshop. With that, we'll go ahead and do visioning exercise. And for that visioning exercise, well, for one, I'd love for you to share in the chat what is a one sentence. Well, we already did that part of one sentence vision that you have. And we got a few shares. So this next part of the exercise, we need 5 little pieces of paper. We need 5 pieces of paper. And you can take your sheet of paper and cut it up into small pieces, just like this. And go ahead and do that now. You're gonna get 5 small pieces of paper. And when you have your 5 pieces of paper, just say yes in the chat so I know you're following me. Excellent. I'm hearing yeses. Yes, 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 yes. Excellent. Yes, you have 5 pieces of paper. So the next thing I want you to do is on one piece of paper, you're gonna write down 1, on a second one, 2, on another one, 3. 1, 2, and 3. In fact, you're gonna write down +1, +2, and +3. Excellent. Now that you have that, on the 4th sheet of paper, you're gonna write down one sentence that describes where you're at in your life right now. So just pick the area that we worked on a few moments ago. And in that area of your life, where are you now? Just in one sentence, 1 or 2 sentences that describes where are you now. And on the last piece of paper, I want you to write down your vision, the 1 to 2 sentences of your vision. And when you have these written down, go ahead and say yes. Go ahead and say yes in the chat. So I know you have these 5 sheets of paper. Excellent. Peter says yes. Stefan, Sandra, Herman. Okay, I'll wait another minute for you to write it down. Okay. So for the next part of the exercise, what you will need is about 5 or 6 feet of floor space where you can walk. and some space around it. And what I would like you to do is to take these pieces of paper and set them on the floor, just like that. And you're going to put them face down for the now and the desired state. Put them face down with a +1, +2, and +3 facing up. The distance between each of these steps is about the distance of your one step. So when you walk, you can walk one step and you'll go from now to 1. Go ahead and place these on the floor now. So they're one step apart. And if you turn on your video cameras, then I'll be able to see and make sure that things are going well. So go ahead and place these on the floor in a place, and you'll need to place them in a space so that you can hear me and follow my instructions as you step on them. But for right now, just go ahead and place them on the floor and make sure that there is some space all around it. And when you have that on the floor, set up 1 foot apart. Go ahead and type in the chat and say ready. So you should be able to hear my voice and be able to walk on these pieces of paper at the same time. Peter. Okay. Yes, I'm getting a lot of readies. Excellent. We can move this chair over here. So they all need to be in one straight line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the distance. You want to take a small piece of paper and write something on it, Peter, instead of the whole thing. So I was trying to see if I can share on video, but excellent. I'm getting a lot of readies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Okay. Take a deep breath. And what you're going to do is go ahead and step on the card which has your current experience. Step on the card that has your current experience. And as you step onto this spot, notice your current situation in the area that is about to change. It's probably very familiar. In fact, it's old news. But at one point, it was an important step. So take a minute to appreciate it for the part of your progression that it was. As you recall how it has been up until now, notice how things looked and sounded and felt when this was what was happening. And take a deep breath. Notice how your body felt. What your posture and breathing were, and how your inner dialogue sounded. Notice the conditions of your life that seemed to go with it. And notice what you were believing and who you were being in the midst of all that. And take a deep breath. This is the experience that is on its way out. In fact, it has already reached completion. or you wouldn't be motivated to make this change. So appreciate it for what it was and know that you will be okay. In fact, that completion and that okayness is pulling the next step toward you, even as you move towards it. Just as when you finish letting a breath out, there is an instinctive pull to bring the next breath in, isn't there? So when you're ready, step onto the next marker. Now you're on the +1 marker. As you step onto this spot, notice the first thing that has begun to shift on the way to the experience that you want. Notice how things look and sound and feel when things are mostly the way they've been, but there are beginning to be signs of what you want showing up. Notice how your body feels, what your posture and breathing are like when you're starting to have elements appear of what you want. What is the inner dialogue that goes with this? Notice the conditions of your life that reflect that what you want is beginning to show up. And finally, notice what you're believing and who you're being when the first signs of what you want are there now. As that begins to become familiar, you may become aware that the next step is already pulling you forward. Just as when one foot makes solid contact with the ground and the other foot is already moving ahead. And so, as you're ready, step onto the next marker. Now you should be on +2. You're on the +2 marker. As you step onto this spot, notice what it is like when you're experiencing some of how it used to be and some of what you want now in almost equal measure. Halfway between what was and what is becoming the way it is now. Both present, both possible, both available. Notice how things look and sound and feel when you're experiencing elements of both how it had been and how it is becoming. Notice what you say to yourself as you notice this phase is already passing and the next step is already moving towards you as you step forward into it. You're at +3 now. As you step onto this spot, notice what it's like when the new experience that has been emerging is now your predominant experience. And the way that it had been up until recently is fading into completion. Notice how there are only vestiges and remnants of how things were, passing as all things do, and leaving increasing space and attention to notice what it is like when what is mostly present is your emerging desired experience. Notice how things look and sound and feel when you are experiencing so much of what you want. Take a deep breath. Notice what you say to yourself as it becomes time for that emerging reality to be fully present now, moving you onto the next marker and into the full realization of what you want. You're standing on the vision marker now. Now that you have stepped fully into what you want, take a moment to appreciate fully the experience of this. And take a deep breath. Notice how things look here. Notice how things sound. Notice how things feel. Emotionally, energetically, and in your body. Notice your posture and breathing. Notice even how things smell and taste in this new chosen reality. Notice that as the way things used to be was a stepping stone to this place will eventually be a stepping stone to something even fuller. But for now, allow yourself the grace of having what you want, having what you have created now. Breathe into your belly and allow this to soak into the fabric of your being. And take a deep breath. And when you have had ample time to appreciate and marinate in that experience, step off the marker and walk around a bit. Go ahead and step off the marker and walk around a bit. And walk in a random sequence, or not a sequence, in a random pattern. Be sure to not cross that line of the markers. Don't walk over your markers. Just walk around in a random. You can walk around your markers, just don't walk on them. And when you've had a moment to walk around a bit, go back to that first marker. Go back to the first marker and then walk through the sequence again and again. Much faster each time, and spending the most time on the last spot, but always walk around randomly before you start again. Spend the most time on the last marker and walk around randomly before you go to the first marker. Don't go directly from the what you want back to the current experience. What we want to teach your brain is a sequence and not a loop. Walk through the sequence again and again. Going much faster each time, spending the most time on the last spot, and always walk around randomly before you start again. going much faster each time, so you're practically skipping towards the end. Go through the sequence at least 15 times, with 10 times speed walking or skipping. Spend the most time on the what you want spot and walk around randomly before you go back. And breathe. And when you're done walking on the sequence 10 to 15 times, come on back and type in the chat room that you're back. And we're almost done with the workshop. We'll wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Go through the sequence about a total of 15 times, faster and faster each time, spending the most time in the what you want spot. Walk randomly before you go to the current spot. And when you've done that, come on back and just type in the chat that you're back. Excellent. Thank you for participating in that. That brings us to the end of this workshop. What's next is we will send out an email. Well, for one, I'd love to hear any words or sentences that you'd like to share about your experience so far. Go ahead and share that in the chat now about, and we'll follow up. Look for an email from us. We'll send out a PDF workbook so you can print it out and make everything that we wrote down nice and formal. We'll send you the video recording. So if you want to review any other parts of this workshop, you can do that. And you can go ahead and elaborate on other aspects of and other areas of your life. And then we'll spend more details on an enhanced online workshop, which is an online version of a full day workshop for creating your vision that we'll send out. And the email will have all the details on how you can sign up. You can use that to create a vision for your personal life, and you can create a vision for your work or your business. And with that, I open it up to any questions. That brings us to the end of the workshop material. I'm here for the next few minutes, available to answer questions, and I would also love to hear how that experience was. I'm having people say it was really cool and a connected activity, cool anchoring, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Stefan. Cecilia says, greatly appreciate your time. Sandra says, I could experience the feeling of reaching the goal. Rita says, I love the physical action tied to the envisioning. Thank you. John Pero, thank you very much. Maria says, what I want is already there. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. That's awesome. Good noticing. Rita says, oh, can I share something about my vision? Thank you for asking that question. I will answer that in just a moment. Fatima says, amazing, thank you. Olga says, thank you. So my vision, as Peter says, mentioned earlier, is to help 100 people launch 100 social change projects by 2020. I spent 10 years in corporate, working in corporate America, and very soon realized that a lot of corporate and businesses are all about focusing on making money and individual achievement. And what it seemed like we're not creating a world that is making us happy. It wasn't making me happy, and I wasn't feeling, the values that are really important to me is self-expression, freedom, and acceptance. And those three values seem to be very missing from the corporate world. And what I want to do is to empower entrepreneurs to create a world that we want to live in. So that is one part of my vision. But the smaller chunk of that is to be able to influence and affect individuals around the world. Because when we can make change in one person's life, they go ahead and influence other people in the world in the same way. And then you can have an exponential impact on the world in creating the world that you want to live in. So that is my vision, Rita. Thank you for asking. Sandra says, thank you. Could we add each of us on LinkedIn? Yes, happy to share that. I will share my LinkedIn profile with you, so feel free to add me over here. Let's see, how do I chat? I'm gonna click exit, stop share. And I'm back over here so you can see me, and I will share my LinkedIn profile. And I'll also include it in the email that I sent to you. So again, I'm here if you have any questions. I shared my LinkedIn profile at the bottom, so feel free to add me. I would love it if you want to add me and send me a message saying that you participated in this workshop, so I know that's where you're coming from. There's a lot of spam people that add me on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I will stay for another few minutes to answer them. And again, thank you so much for participating, and thank you so much for spending the last 90 minutes with me to create your vision. Awesome, it's excellent to see all of you. Bye, Cecilia. Bye, Fatima. Arman is eating dinner. Stefan, thank you. Awesome, awesome, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. All right, I see no questions. Excellent. Well, then we'll wrap it up over here. Again, thank you. We will follow up with an email with the PDF workshop, with a PDF workbook for this event, with the link to the full day version of the workshop so you can expand your vision in other areas of your life. And all the other goodness that I have in that workshop, including more exercises and visioning to make your vision even more real, and the recording for this video. Those were the 3 things. Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Bye, everyone.